Why Herschel? They're beating all of our guys up, but what is it about this guy? He changes the entire narrative of the left. We're a party of racists, Sean. Me and you're a racist. The Republican Party's racist. Well, what happens when the Republican Party elects and nominates Herschel Walker, an African-American black Heisman Trophy winner, right? Olympian? It destroys the whole narrative. John James, Tim Scott, Herschel Walker. Everybody in San Francisco is going to jump off a bridge.
You want proof that Herschel's winning? Just turn on the TV and look at the Democrats and the media losing their minds. Coming after him with everything they got. Pretty soon you're going to be told that Herschel eats live kittens under a full moon at midnight. And that's ridiculous. Everyone knows kittens are breakfast food. Sorry, I may have lost you the PETA vote there.
Man, between Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, it's like everyone's worst uncles all chiming in on a Facebook comment section at the same time. Take Lindsey Graham, for example, debuting this new argument that Herschel Walker's candidacy poses a massive problem for the left because Herschel Walker is black and so they couldn't possibly be racist if they've nominated a black man. If you were wondering what the "I can't be racist because I have a black friend" narrative looks like as an entire campaign strategy, here you go. In fact, Lindsey gets so amped up by his own strategy that he decides to show how the GOP really has turned the whole racism narrative completely on its head by listing all of the black elected officials in the Republican Party.
John James, Tim Scott, Herschel Walker. Everybody in San Francisco is going to jump off a bridge.
John James, Tim Scott, Herschel Walker. That's it. Wait, am I forgetting? No, that's it. I'm sorry, but 3 black elected officials in the entire party is not a lot. In reality, there's only 1 black Republican in the Senate, Tim Scott, and 2 black Republicans in the House. John James, like Herschel Walker, is a candidate. But with those numbers, I'm not surprised that Lindsey Graham is grasping for whatever he can find here. And not for nothing, but it would probably be easier to recruit more black Americans to run for office on the right if that party wasn't steeped in racism and anti-Semitism and xenophobia. If they didn't prop up white supremacists. If they were capable of disavowing the KKK and white nationalists, if they didn't march with tiki torches, if they didn't get caught uttering racial slurs. Maybe, just maybe, if you want people to think you're not racist, you should try not being racist. And then you've got Ted Cruz doing a tight 5 on stage in a performance that I can only assume was entitled "Why Senators Do Not Do Comedy." Cruz tries to claim that the Democrats are worried about Walker because all of these crazy stories are coming to the forefront. Now, this is obviously in reference to not 1, not 2, but 3 abortions that Walker paid for or pressured women to get. But while Cruz tries to cast these things off as Democrats getting desperate, what he doesn't acknowledge is that it's all true. It's backed up with literal receipts, pay stubs, signed cards, voicemails. Cruz is suggesting that these are just Hail Marys. They're real. You don't get to claim that the Democrats are being desperate or dishonest when all they're doing is just relaying objective reality. Also, you gotta love how the most extreme example that Cruz can come up with to parody the worst oppo dump that Democrats could reveal against Herschel Walker is that he eats kittens, when another gem of a candidate on the right, Dr. Oz, was quite literally responsible for overseeing experiments where they killed a bunch of puppies. Ted Cruz is out here trying to reveal the single worst thing that the Democrats could expose a Republican for when a Republican already did exactly that. Now, Cruz goes on to attack Raphael Warnock by saying this.
Last year, we forced a vote on the floor of the Senate to try to stop the Democrats from sending stimulus checks to millions of illegal aliens all across the country. Every single Democrat voted no. It failed by 1 vote. Raphael Warnock was the deciding vote, sending millions of dollars of your tax dollars to illegal aliens across the country. We had another amendment. We said, okay, you want to support illegal aliens, how about criminals? How about violent criminals in jail? Can we agree not to send taxpayer checks to criminals in jail? Every Democrat voted no. Failed by 1 vote. Raphael Warnock was the deciding vote to send millions of your tax dollars to criminals in jails, to murderers, to rapists, to child molesters. We had a vote earlier this year to stop the Democrats from creating 87,000 new IRS agents, to descend upon the American people and target and harass the American people. You already know the punchline. Every single Democrat voted no. Raphael Warnock was the deciding vote.
But let's talk about these claims made by Cruz. He said that Warnock was the deciding vote on whether to send millions of illegal immigrant stimulus checks, and that's a reference to checks sent out as part of the American Rescue Plan early on in Biden's presidency. But what Cruz is explaining is a lie. The only undocumented immigrants who got stimulus checks were the ones with Social Security numbers. According to that law, to get a stimulus check, you need to have a valid Social Security number and you can't be a non-resident alien. Undocumented immigrants are classified as resident aliens and are therefore eligible. But legalese aside, let's not forget that these are people who live here, who work here, who pay taxes here, often without the ability to even receive any benefits from those taxes, and they're human beings. The pandemic hit all of us. The idea that those people shouldn't get a break too is fucking inhumane. Let's just be honest here. These immigrants are very, very, very often the ones doing the jobs that Americans won't do. They're building our buildings and cleaning houses and cooking our food. If Ted Cruz thinks that those people aren't entitled to some help along with everyone else because they came from somewhere else, then maybe he should explain that to his father, who fled to the US from Cuba, why immigrants should be third-class citizens. Then Cruz claims that Warnock voted to send checks to criminals in jail, another reference to stimulus checks from the American Rescue Plan. Only one small issue. The stimulus check program from the American Rescue Plan was modeled after the same program in the CARES Act that was signed into law in March of 2020 when Donald Trump was president, in which inmates were eligible and did receive stimulus checks. And guess who voted in favor of that bill? Yup. Ted Cruz. In other words, Ted Cruz voted to send checks to inmates and then turned around and pointed to the idea of sending checks to inmates as disqualifying. Tell you what, if Ted Cruz has an issue with all of that, he might want to take it up with Ted Cruz. And then he says that Raphael Warnock was the deciding vote on creating 87,000 IRS agents, which is a new scare tactic from the right, that an army of IRS agents is descending upon America to take all of your money. And this one is especially revealing because, first of all, the IRS is going to lose 50,000 of its 80,000 person workforce over the next 5 years anyway. Most of those 87,000 agents will simply replace workers lost to workforce attrition. Second of all, the IRS workforce has been so gutted that far from having agents knocking down your doors, millions of tax returns aren't even being processed and only a fraction of calls from the IRS are actually returned. This isn't about a predatory IRS, it's about an anemic one. But here's the real reason that Ted Cruz doesn't want a functioning IRS. It's because the demographic that stands to benefit from a gutted IRS is the rich. The wealthiest Americans avoid paying $175 billion in income taxes every year. And it's already been proven that cutting funding to the IRS enables that behavior. Ted Cruz isn't stupid, although he certainly makes a convincing argument. He knows that IRS enforcement means that the rich will get targeted, but he can't allow that to happen because those are his donors that he's looking out for. And so instead, he's up there trying to convince regular people that the IRS is coming for you, because he doesn't care who he has to lie to en route to delivering big wins for his wealthy donors. So look, all of that is to say that these desperate attacks by Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz show one thing, that Herschel Walker is a subpar candidate, a weak candidate who needs all the help he can get. And because these people know they're in bad shape, their only strategy is to lie. Lie about stimulus checks and criminals and IRS agents and race and on and on. If the truth was on their side, they'd use it. The fact that they can't really does speak for itself. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can click the thumbnail right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work even further, the best way is to subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. There you can check out my interviews with major players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, Jamie Raskin, and so many more. Plus other interviews that live exclusively on the podcast. That link is also right here on this screen, or just search No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen wherever you listen to podcasts.